Welcome, Scarefest fans, and welcome to Lou Temple. I'm hoping Wes asked a Tony Scott question, but I bet he doesn't because I'd like to ask Lou about that. Mr. Temple, your best Tony Scott story if we ever have a chance. Also, loved you and Unstoppable. Well, this week we're going to do a remake, and the remake is Rabid. Now, Rabid was a movie made by Cronenberg in the 70s in Canada, and it's really famous for body horror and the fact that it was made by Cronenberg. The Soska sisters, Jen and Sylvia, have made this remake that I wanted to see last year, didn't get a chance to, finally did get to see it. Now, the original plot and the plot of this one are fairly similar. There's this procedure, people start turning into vampires. This one lady has something coming out of her tongue, and she basically transmits it. Now, I find all this fascinating that we're living in a COVID-19 world, and I was watching the movie thinking, that doctor doesn't have a mask on. That person obviously isn't going through with the original had Marilyn Chambers. Now, if you're wondering who Marilyn Chambers is, or why that sounds familiar, she was in a famous porno film called Behind the Green Door, and then she made it into mainstream movies. A young woman develops a taste for human blood after experimental plastic surgery, and her victims turn into bloodthirsty zombies, leading into a citywide epidemic. Starts going through some of the same tropes that you see in all these movies. She wakes up the next morning. Did I do that? Did I not do that? We all know she is. There's a lot of generic things. She's originally a vegetarian, of course, after she has this procedure. She now wants steak. She starts licking a steak in her fridge. We've seen all this before. She's a designer of clothes. She's not doing very well before she gets in the accident, gets disfigured. Then she's pretty, and everybody's paying attention to her. Same bullshit you've seen in so many other movies. Same cliches. It's interesting to me. I don't know that I'd have had the same reaction to it a year ago before our pandemic, because I was literally watching the movie in one scene, and you see the doctor walking around, there's being blood sprayed everywhere, no one's wearing a mask or gloves, and I was like, no real hospital would have done this during a pandemic, because I'm watching it on the news. Now, granted, regular folks wouldn't, but a hospital, not so much. It's not overly believable. There's a Silent Hill dream sequence. Why? With twitching nurses. I will give them credit. There's a few clever little odes to the first one. There's a cameo from Lynn Lowry. She's in Shiver. If you ever get a chance to watch, that's another Cronenberg film. There's a scene with the lead in a swimming pool that's straight out of Shivers, if you've ever seen Cronenberg's film. The scene with her procedure is right out of Dead Ringers. They're absolutely wearing the red gowns before the procedure like they did in Dead Ringers. Have you ever seen that Cronenberg film? That's one I highly recommend. There's a lot of references to not to just the original Rabid, but several Cronenberg films. It does have the amazing Stephen McHattie, who is a wonderful Canadian character actor, and he's in one or a couple of scenes, so for nothing else, you should check those out. He's in a movie called Pontypool that I should talk about on here. There's a cool reference to Schadenfreude. It's the exhibit's called the Schadenfreude exhibit. That's pleasure derived by someone from another one's misfortune. So you're watching someone's misfortune, having a good time. So maybe that's what all horror films are, Schadenfreude. Stephen King says they're rehearsals for our death. Who knows? Anyway, should you see the new Rabid remake? No. Try to pass this one, okay? But if you're interested in body horror, check out almost anything from Cronenberg from the 70s. If you don't know who that is, I'm going to take this moment to tell you, Cronenberg, who's a huge influence. He eventually made The Fly for Hollywood, the Jeff Goldblum one. But before that, there's Videodrome, there's Rabid, there's Shivers, Scanners. Check out some of Cronenberg's early films, specifically if you're into body horror, if that scares you. This has been Joe Lewis of Bonehead Weekly. Thank you so much.